Hi, I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Before we get started with today's video, I just want to take a moment to thank Eric very much for your donation to our channel's PayPal account. Thank you, Eric. Many times here at the channel, I have stated that I believe narcissists to be empty vessels, soulless creatures that are demonically possessed. Now, I've received replies from people telling me that that's simply not possible. Demons don't exist. They're children's fables like goblins, Halloween stories, and their basis for this belief is that God isn't real, that God is a product of weak people that need crutches, and that there is no physical evidence to support the fact that God exists. And I want to talk about that today. Now, of course, I do believe that each of us has the right to our own belief systems. But if you don't believe in God, I can see where it would be very challenging to believe in demons or demonic possession. I would have to say that I was born believing in God. I do not see it as part of an educational system, something that was taught to me. From my earliest memories, I believed in God. Now, let's flash back 35 years. I'm a young woman. I'm standing in the bank. There's a very tiny, very elderly woman standing in front of me. As a teller comes available, she calls to the elderly woman. But before going to the teller, the elderly woman turns around. She points her finger at me, stares right at me, and says quite loudly, "God is going to give you 5 sons." I'm looking around thinking, is she talking to me? Now, most people in Canada wouldn't intentionally have 5 children. It's a lot of children, a lot of expense, a lot of work, and certainly one would think you'd be spread pretty thin with 5 kids. So I say to her, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to have 5 children. And she repeats, 5 sons. And off she goes to the teller. Now, this always kind of stuck with me. In fact, when I got home, I talked to my partner about it. We had a good laugh. We thought, my God, 5 sons is a lot of kids. Now, as you all know, I do have 5 sons. And I'll tell you, I've thought about that old woman many times over my lifetime. Now, right after the birth of my 4th son, Eddie, I became pregnant again. Now, as I'm inching my way towards 40, I know I'm running out of time to have kids, but I do become pregnant for a 5th time. And when we went to the doctor, I'd requested an ultrasound, and I was pregnant with a daughter. Now, as soon as the doctor informed me that I was in fact pregnant with a daughter, the first words out of my mouth were, "That old lady was wrong." So there I am, living in Mexico, in a community called Ixtapa. Not Ixtapa, Zihuatanejo, but Ixtapa, Jalisco, which is a farming community about 20 minutes outside of Puerto Vallarta. One afternoon, I'm at the kitchen sink doing dishes, and I look out the window, and there's a couple of kids pulling Jesse and Lee's hair. Now, I go running through the house, and I'm really pregnant now, probably a good 5 or 6 months, and I go booking it through the house, and I have gone to the side of the house that doesn't have the gate on it, and in a single bound, I go flying over the fence, I grab the boys, and instantly go into miscarriage. I realize I'm in serious trouble. I'm at home with 4 young children. Little Eddie is maybe a year old, and their father is out of town. He's in Acapulco. Now, I'm bleeding pretty bad, so I get into the shower. I'm sitting on the floor of the walk-in shower. I've got Jesse, Lee, and Jacob there. Jesse's the oldest. He's about 10, and the boys are terrified. So I tell the little ones to go get the baby, and the 3 of them stay with me, and Jesse goes running for help. Now, a few minutes later, I can hear their father's voice. Somehow, out of the blue, though he wasn't expected back from ACA for many days, he arrived home. He yells to the boys, "Get in the truck." He picks me up, he throws me over his shoulder, and we're heading for the hospital right away. I do, in fact, lose the child, and I'm hospitalized overnight, 10 in the morning. The boys and their dad show up to get me. They've brought me clothes because, of course, the clothing I was wearing looked like I'd gone all halal on a 50 had herd of cattle, and they brought me a gift. Now, if you've been to Mexico, you've seen these all over the place. They're little wooden boxes. Quite often there's palm trees or sunsets painted on them. But this little box was triangular shaped, and it was painted like a piece of watermelon. Green base, red top, little seeds all over it. I know they were trying to be sweet by getting the little box for me, but to be honest, the box never meant anything to me. In fact, I never even liked the box. It was kind of this reminder that I had lost this daughter, kind of a dead baby souvenir, and the box, though I kept it, was always tucked away, was never on display, and it was just something that was always stuffed in the back of a drawer. Flash forward a couple of years from that point, my son Exton is born, the fifth son. We've returned to Canada, and I brought that darn box with me. It had been in a drawer, so when I packed my stuff, it just went into the suitcase with it. Exton was the youngest of 5 sons, and as a baby, he didn't speak. In fact, I was concerned for some time that Exton was deaf, and by the time he was about 2 and still not speaking at all, I would ask him, "Exton, can you hear Mummy's voice?" And he would nod that he could. And I'd say, "Exton, can you speak?" And he would say, yes, he could. And I would say, "Exton, will you say something for Mummy?" No, he didn't want to. And when I would ask him, "Exton, will you talk when you're ready to talk?" he assured me that he would. And for a long time, he didn't say anything. Now, Exton's about 2 years old at this point, and he decides it's time to talk. And once he got going, he was going pretty good. No mama, dada kind of stuff. After 2.5 years of listening and observing, Exton hit the ground running. He was blurting out full sentences pretty much his first try at it. Now we're back in Canada, and I'm doing some spring cleaning, and Exton's sitting on my bed, and I start pulling things out of my drawer. One of the things that came out of the drawer was that watermelon box, which I put down on the bed. I look over, Exton has the box in his hand, and he says to me, "Mummy, you got this box when I died." I said, "No, Exton, you didn't die. You're alive. You're here with Mummy now." He says, "No, Mummy, you remember when I was a girl and I died." I'm all focused on Exton now. In fact, I'm lowering myself to my knees, and I'm kind of leaning on the bed talking to him, and I say, "Exton, why would you say something like that?" And he very merrily blurts out, "Mummy, you remember, I was a girl, and then I died, and God sent me back." Now, of course, I'm thinking, what the heck is going on here? And I say, "Exton, how do you know this?" "Well, God told me, Mummy." I say, "Exton, you saw God?" "Oh, yes, Mummy, I saw God." I said, "You talked to God, Exton?" "Yes, Mummy, I talked to God." I said, "Exton, what did God look like?" He says, "Bright." I said, "Bright like a light?" "So bright, Mummy. God is so bright." I say, "What did God say to you, Exton?" He says, "You're going home to your mom, but this time you're going to be a boy." Never once from the time I had that miscarriage have we ever discussed that miscarriage. Never once, not once amongst family members, not once in my home, and never once have I ever showed anyone that box, let alone Exton. I'd always felt like I was a woman who had lost a child until Exton told me his story and the conversation he'd had with God, and told me how God appeared to him. I realized I had not lost a child at all, and as you can imagine, images of that old woman popped up in my head immediately. The funny thing about an atheist saying that there is no evidence that God exists, to that I say I have evidence. But the reality is atheists have absolutely zero evidence to prove that God isn't real. I don't believe for 1 second that my 2.5-year-old son made that story up, and I personally don't need any more evidence to prove that God is real. Though everyone has a right to their own opinion, I'm just going to say that in my reality, God is very real. I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. I hope you guys are having a great narc-free day.